I just love the world and I love the character, and that was very clear in the script. This sort of, you know, kind of anti-hero, somewhat superhero, but also this conflicted sort of beast, you know, this half human, half demon guy who's like struggling to do the right thing. And what I wanted to really bring to it was this internal struggle of, you know, a man or a sort of a beast, kind of this monster, you know, because he is half demon and he, you know, he's a monster, but he goes about killing other monsters. So I think he's in a weird position. And I think especially at the beginning of the film when he kills Camazotz, like Camazotz is a BPRD agent who is also a monster, and he is a BPRD agent who is a monster. So in a sense, he kills himself, and that sets him off on a journey of really kind of questioning like what he's doing and who he is and where his allegiances lie, and why they specifically lie with human beings as opposed to other monsters. I've really enjoyed working with Milla. You know, she's such a pro, like, and especially in terms of these genre movies, like she really understands this world and she understands like how to, and she really just goes for it. And like, I love that. Like, it's almost like because at the end of the day, it's like dress up. I mean, it's like the greatest game of dress up you could ever play with your friends or something. Like, I'm dressed like a demon, she's like a witch, and we're like casting spells and like chopping each other's heads off and stuff like that. So in that way, she's just real game, and she's not afraid to like really go for it in a way that I feel like other actresses would be a little more sheepish. And so I've really had a good time. And also, like, the other thing about Milla that I love is she just knows how to make a movie. Like, she understands all the elements. And so when we're on set, when we're rehearsing, she understands, like, you know, camera, she understands blocking, she understands lighting, she understands, like, how to get the best movie. First of all, like, on camera, she just is luminous. Like, she just has these big eyes, and she's just very beautiful, and but I don't mean that just physically, like she just has this inner sort of luminous quality to her. I mean, I think it's a very, very different movie. Like, I really love those other movies. I appreciate them, and I think they did Hellboy in a certain way that Guillermo del Toro saw the world, and this Hellboy is very different, and it's Neil Marshall and, you know, my way of seeing this world, and in that way, I do feel like to a certain degree it's closer to the Mignola comic. Hellboy's questioning, like, I don't know. I mean, I sort of feel like I'm not an adopted child, but I sort of feel like it's an interesting adopted child response. Is like, why me? Like, why did you save me? What is it about me that's so special? What is it about me that you love? I think that's a very interesting thing. So and then on top of that, he discovers throughout the movie that Broom was actually sent that night when the Nazis spawned him to kill him. And so Hellboy wants to know why he didn't kill him, why he let him live, and even beyond let him live, took him in.
Nimue, the Blood Queen, is a very complicated woman. She's a woman who's trying to bring two worlds together, the creatures of darkness and the world of man, and really feeling like they could live in peace and trying to make that happen. And of course, King Arthur and Merlin the magician, they just don't buy it, they don't believe it, and so they kill her, or they try to kill her, but they can't, of course. She meets Hellboy in a vision, and she sees his potential, that he's this monster. He's one of her creatures. He's she says to him, "You're one of us." And but he keeps trying to deny that part of him. You know, he's shaved his horns off. He's trying to live like a human, trying to be accepted. And her whole thing is, why are you keep trying to be accepted by people who hate and fear you? You know, you're reviled among humans. You could be lauded as a hero in my world. And, you know, don't hide from your true nature. And of course, he fights that, and he just wants to be accepted, and he wants to be normal. And, you know, it's hard for her because she sees in him an equal to her. She sees someone that could potentially be her king. Well, seeing David in his costume was amazing. I mean, it is just, I mean, he's a tall guy. He's a big guy, but, you know, with the suit and the mask and the horns, I mean, it was amazing. I was shocked when I first saw him. It was really cool, and he really embodies Hellboy with all of that aplomb, and he's got that sense of humor and that big personality, and it just fit, you know. I saw it and I was like, yes, this is perfect. Well, David is such a wonderful guy. He's a sweetheart, and, you know, he's a very smart guy as well. So he's bringing so much, not only to the character, but to the script. He loves to ad-lib. He's a writer himself. So, you know, he's just bringing so many different dimensions to so many different parts of the script. You know, he's very creative and a really fun personality to be around at the same time. So, you know, he's a big presence. You know immediately when David's on set, and you know, he's a lot of fun to be around, and to have that kind of juxtaposition of being fun and hilarious, but yet very smart and very complex in his thinking. He brings this gravitas to everything he does, and this ease. You know, he's just a cool guy with a great kind of attitude. You know, he's always been a bad boy in a way, and you know, he brings this kind of casual power to every line, where you just have to listen to him. And you know, I think to be Hellboy's dad, he's perfect because he's like smart, but he doesn't give a shit as well. You know, and he's ready to tell you that. So he doesn't mince his words. So I think, you know, to have those two personalities with him and David together on set is really wonderful because, you know, though they work in a different way, the two personalities really play off each other so beautifully. You do have characters that hurt and characters that feel, and that feel insecure and that need to prove something, and you know, that feel marginalized, you know, like Hellboy, who doesn't fit in, and my character, the Blood Queen, has the best intentions, but everything goes wrong. You know, I think everyone can relate to these emotions. So, you know, not only is it going to be a kick-ass action movie, but I think it's going to be characters that everyone can relate to.
I've seen David in many stage productions, and he's a fine actor, and I think we've developed a really good relationship as the film's gone on. And that father-son thing, which is important to the plot, because it's a human story after all. Broom's known Hellboy since he was a baby, when he found him when he was a baby, and instead of killing him, he let him live and brought him up as his son, and they've developed this huge relationship. And the film is about the torment in Hellboy of his perceived prophecy that he should be what he is, which is the spawn of the devil, which he isn't. He's become, if you like, the savior of mankind from all these beasts in this great comic world that Mike Mignola created. For people who love the comic books and love the character, I think they'll find this as a very faithful and visually splendid adaptation of his comic book. I like the fact that, you know, Broom and he have this relationship, that the human relation, which gives grounds. I mean, I'm there to kind of ground the whole thing together. You know, playing opposite a 6'7" man who's red with horns is Actually, it's kind of fun because David's a good actor, so he just happens to be he just happens to be a guy who's 6'7" with red horns. It's perfectly fine or perfectly reasonable. When they approached me about the part, I said, I don't do decrepit. I mean, maybe up there in a few years, but I don't do. If you want that, you're looking at something else. So they've made this character more like the original sort of Indiana Jonesy kind of character that he was when he found Hellboy.
The relationship between Alice and Hellboy is really fun. I think it's they're kind of like sarcastic with each other, and they're very playful with each other, but also very connected in a way. I think their bond is really strong. I think they both have this sense of needing one another. They kind of lean on one another. Like Hellboy saved her when she was a baby, and she's kind of like she owes him one for that.
What happened to him in the jungle, he can't escape, he can't hide, he can't avoid. And so he has to navigate his life this way. And at the same time, he has to hide something that's very much a part of him. And that's something I think we all do. We all have our own secrets. We all have these things that we don't want other people to know about, and these things that are at the core of who we are and that make up our own personalities. I like that for Daimyo, it was so clear what those issues were. What I like the most about my character is that I can relate to him in many ways. I like the fact that he's very physically capable. I like the fact that he has a lot to offer at the same time. He's been marked by this incident with a jaguar, and it's changed the trajectory of his life. There's a lot there that I can relate to, and I like that he's a man of action. Joel Harlow's work on this show is remarkable. It's to the degree when I saw David come out in the costume for the first time, I didn't recognize who he was. And it wasn't just the face makeup. A lot of people do great face makeup, but I was so impressed by the complete transformation of that character. The body suit that he wears is so convincing as real musculature that it took me a while to realize that it wasn't David. And lucky for David, he has the benefit of getting a suit with lots of muscles. But it was great to see all the detail, like the hairs that are on the chest, and like the veins that come through the arms. All of these things are so specific and really beautifully done. What I like about the sets and the overall vision for the piece is that we're trying to do things as practically as possible. A lot of these movies are actors standing in front of a green screen, but we actually have built sets, and the art direction is also pretty specific. St. Paul's Cathedral is very interesting, considering we're shooting it in Bulgaria and not in England. But I'm looking forward to seeing how everything comes to life, when it's on screen. I think what an R rating allows for is a more faithful adaptation of the graphic novels. The graphic novels aren't subject to those kinds of ratings, and so oftentimes when they're translated into film, they have to cut back on what they're able to do. But here, we don't have to do that. There are a lot of grotesque elements to what happens to Nimue and her life and Hellboy's life. So it's nice to be able to go full steam ahead with that, as well as have some risque humor. It's liberating in that sense, and a lot of people who read these books are older, so it's nice to be able to appeal to that demographic. What I enjoyed about Neil's vision for this piece is that he spoke a lot about trying to do things as practically as possible, trying to create sets, build sets, trying to use makeup and costumes instead of CG. Of course, any movie of this kind is going to have some CG involved, but he wanted to keep it to a minimum, and that impressed me. because as an actor, it always helps to be able to work with something real, tangible, instead of a head on a stick in front of a green screen. So that appealed to me a great deal. And I also liked that he wanted to take the colors of the original Hellboy and push them to more extreme places. He wanted to make the violence darker. He wanted to make the humor funnier. He wanted to make the characters' journeys a little bit deeper. And so all of those things were appealing to me, and it's why I eventually signed on.